Melissa, who has gotten her degree now in creative writing from the University of Montana, is my editor. And she's a very good one. She's right about 95% of the time. Every once in a while, I feel like we need to break the rules, but at least she's the one who really knows what the rules are. And she keeps me in line.
I am definitely more of a technical writer than he is. And so my storytelling abilities are kind of lacking in the flow area. So reading his stories through the first time, I always just make sure that everything flows well and that it's fun to read, interesting, and that there aren't any spots that that are lacking that interest, that everything keeps the reader engaged. And then you go through and catch the technical stuff.
We make a great team. I've got the imagination. I can create the stories. Melissa has the technical skills and the education to make sure that all of this comes across in a very professional way to the reader. One thing that Melissa and I both agree on is that a book should have a cadence, a rhythm. I've watched her reading through my manuscript, and she nods her head. She's keeping time to the music. When you get to an exciting place in the book, that rhythm should speed up. And in some places, you slow it way down to have a calming effect. But it should always be there. You should feel the story as much as read it. But it wasn't until I wrote this book, A Rumor of Justice, that I really found my voice and my rhythm as an author. I want to talk about how I happened to write this book. I have a friend, a very close friend, Dave Kaufman. Dave is a retired sheriff's deputy. He spent 33 years with the Flathead County Sheriff's Department. Before that, he was with the Whitefish Police Department. And Dave and I have been good friends for nearly 40 years. And we have shared a love of reading. We've always swapped books and things like that. And one day I was over at Dave's house, and he had just had his foot operated on. He was on desk duty. And he was investigating allegations of police brutality against another police officer from a different department. That's the way they do it in Flathead County. If an officer from one department has been accused of something, then an officer from another department investigates it. So Dave was doing this investigation, and he was telling me about it. And I asked him, Dave, what would happen if a police officer was beating on you and you defended yourself? And he said, well, to what extent? I said, well, suppose you injured the police officer or killed him. And Dave said, then you would be in big trouble. And I said, even if it was self-defense? He says, it would not matter. You would be in big trouble. You'd have a hard time defending yourself. So I got to thinking about that conversation, and that night when I got home, I did a web search. I could not find a single case in the entire state of Montana where someone who had been accused of assaulting a police officer had been exonerated because of self-defense. It's never happened. So then I broadened my search, and I looked in the entire United States, and I could only find a couple where people had successfully defended themselves when charged with assault on a police officer by word of self-defense. And then my creative juices got going, and I got to thinking, and over the weekend, I dashed off the first 3 chapters of this book, had no idea where it was going, just wrote 3 chapters, and I printed them out, and I gave them to Dave to read. And he called me just a little while later, and he said, Tom, I think you're onto something.